The latest Pompey news, updates every day from the Pompey Sound news desk.
John Mousinho is already thinking about the upcoming international break.
We went into the past 2 breaks with wins and want another positive result to calm everything down and leave us in a good place to attack the rest of the season. It's really important that we take some momentum from what was an improved performance against Wrexham when we go to Hull. They're a different side from the one that narrowly avoided relegation last season and have enjoyed an impressive start to the current campaign. There's a new manager and a lot of new players. We felt they were unlucky not to get anything at Derby earlier in the week. We'll have to be at our best, and there's a big emphasis on everyone in our team to create a bit more and show a ruthless streak to put the ball in the back of the net. We went into the past 2 breaks with wins and want another positive result to calm everything down and leave us in a good place to attack the rest of the season. But you look at our forward line on Wednesday and there are guys like Colby, Connor and Josh who have plenty of goals in them. We spoke to Michael and his family briefly before and after the game, but now have a bit of time to catch up properly. It's nice to have those face-to-face conversations, although the lines of communication are always open, even when they're across the pond. My gut reaction is that he can't yet do that twice in a week, but we'll take a view on it nearer to the game. We'll send Connor Ogilvie for a scan on Friday after he injured his knee, and we won't know more on that until next week. Callum Lang, Nico Schmid and Adrian Sejikic will hopefully be available after the international break, as we've said previously. Harvey Blair and Franco Ume should also be back in training by then, but Thomas Waddingham is probably still out for another 6 to 8 weeks.
This is John Mousinho flagging up something which I guess we could work out for ourselves, but it's always good when a respected head coach such as Mousinho says it out loud and we can go, yeah, I can see that. And what he's saying is that the game before an international break of 2 weeks, which next season will be an international break of 3 weeks, is disproportionately important in the players' minds. If, for example, the international break had happened after the Birmingham game, they would have had to carry around their thoughts and reflections, guilt even possibly, for the Birmingham performance and the result for 2 weeks. Carry it with them into the training ground in their souped up cars, and then carry it with them as they carry their bags and whatever they take into the training ground and the changing room pre-training, or maybe going straight into an analysis meeting, carrying a sense of not having performed very well because they didn't. And you get that residue. I think it's called a halo in psychological parlance, this halo effect. The last game that you played is disproportionately important in your mind. You can't think of it in the context of the season so far, or indeed even your career so far. You just think about the last game. I used to be the bloke in meetings when I went to meetings who used to sometimes say, just to remind people, this is true of most people, we'd go around the table with people offering opinions, and when it got to me, I'd invariably say, I always find myself in agreement with the last person who said anything, because I generally was. And it's the same with the last game before an international break. If we'd gone into an international break after Wrexham, we'd have been feeling that much better about ourselves. There'd have been a slightly different spring in the step when they trot out onto the grass for their training sessions. There'd have been a little bit more of a light-heartedness, an air of positivity, no sense of the imposter syndrome about the squad, because the Wrexham performance was very good. The result wasn't quite right, but the performance was good enough and a bit more on top. So we need to have one of those at Hull rather than a Birmingham. Big time. So we will be watching, because that will influence, as John Mousinho rightly says, the rest of the season, perhaps. If we come out of Hull with our round-shouldered and looking at the ground as we walk to the coach, then that is going to impede our progress during the 2 weeks that we don't have an actual game of football. So, a lot at stake at Hull. 3 points, obviously. 1 would be nice. Most people agree that we take 1. What we don't want is a nasty defeat and a soggy performance. Not just because of what that will do to our league status and the danger that we might get sucked into a relegation battle becomes even more real. It will influence perhaps the several games that follow the international break, because the dark cloud of Hull has been hovering over us for 14 days and nights. So, it's all hands to the tiller when we get up to Hull. And let's not leave ourselves and leave Hull with a nasty taste in our mouth.
Michael Eisner was asked about the relationship between the owners and management.
I think John and Rich Hughes are a breath of fresh air. They're both relatively young. They're both enthusiastic. They're both knowledgeable. We deal with them and talk to them all the time. They're very accommodating when we ask stupid questions. Soccer in the U.S. isn't what football is here. I could tell you anything you want about baseball, hockey, basketball. But soccer, we are learning. But it's fun. After 8 years, we probably know half the rules.
I'm sorry, but can't you just tell that Michael Eisner made his fabulous fortune in entertainment? He himself was a TV star back in the day. Everybody in America knew who he was, knew his face. He couldn't walk around Disney World without being inundated with autograph hunters. He knows how to be entertaining. He knows what entertainment is. And he knows that the quote, "I've been in football for 8 years and I know about half the rules." He knows that that is an absolute gold-plated, 5-star, ocean-going quote. Because let's face it, that's about as much as we all know. The rules are so strange and labyrinthine, and they change all the time anyway. Almost every season there's a new trial, change of rules, change of emphasis, being tested, and then gets in and stays, and we don't quite know why the referee's blown the whistle, nor does he sometimes. I honestly believe that, in the nicest possible way. So to hear an owner of Pompey, admit to the fact that they are still learning the beautiful game. He started that quote by saying that John and Rich are a breath of fresh air. Well, he's a breath of fresh air, isn't he? Coming out and saying that, compared to some of the owners that we've had, who didn't know any of the rules and didn't care and didn't want to learn the rules. They didn't go to the games. They didn't know what it was all about. They couldn't understand why people didn't pick the ball up and throw it around the pitch. So, the Eisners, once again, they tick every box. Once again, they tick the box, every box of our manager, coach, head coach, whatever, call him what you will, and our sporting director. And by implication, he ticks all the boxes of everybody at Portsmouth Football Club. The backroom staff, administrators, our no doubt office full of lawyers these days, kit people, cleaners, bar staff, the players. He's ticking their box for them by coming, by showing interest, by dragging himself from the other side of the world. In California, where it's lovely and equitable all the year round, it never rains in California. And there he sits in a north wind, in a north winter's wind, halfway up the top of Fratton Park, without a hat. And he doesn't care, because he's Michael Eisner, and he's tough as teak and bright as a button, and we've got him. He's ours. In the light of 7 changes against Wrexham, we now ask Pompey guru Steve Bone not only for his prediction for the score in the upcoming game, but his prediction for how many changes.
He'll probably unleash somebody we thought was injured tomorrow, which might be a nice surprise.
Yes,
so I'm going to go for 4 changes. I'm going to go 4 changes.
And let's cut to the chase. What's the score going to be?
Yeah, I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw.
Okay.
Same as we got at Hull at this time last season, slightly earlier, a week earlier. Yes. I think it was at the start of November. It was when we were still really marooned a little bit at the bottom, still looking for an upturn, and it was the first game where we really sort of turned the pressing game to our advantage, and can't remember if we were 2-1 up or 2-1 down, but I know we were leading at one stage. I think Matt Ritchie got one of the goals. How we'd like him to be around.
Football news agency The 72 asked their experts for their predictions for Hull. Harry Mayle said, "Hull City will be disappointed to have lost against Derby County last time out. HCAFC will feel they deserved at least a draw against the Rams before a defensive mix-up led to their opponent's winner near the end. The Tigers put in another decent display at Pride Park, especially in the second half. If they play like that again this weekend, they will fancy their chances. Portsmouth have been struggling for wins recently. They are too close to the drop zone for comfort at the moment. Pompey are winless in their last 5 outings. I think it will be a close match on Saturday, but I can see the hosts sneaking the 3 points. Prediction: Hull City 2, Portsmouth 1. James Ray. Hull City are dealing with a fair few injury problems, but, as often seems to be the case, so are Portsmouth. It comes down to who has more momentum coming into this one, and that is comfortably HCAFC. They may have been beaten in the week, but it has been a largely impressive campaign to date for the Tigers, and I think they've got more than enough firepower to overcome Pompey here. No one has scored less than Portsmouth, which is definitely a worry. That will be a source of comfort for Hull City given their defensive troubles. I'll be backing a home win here. Prediction: Hull City 2, Portsmouth 0.